Hello, hello. Welcome to the Nosey Liberal. I love it when we have technical difficulties. Uh, I can barely hear what I'm supposed to be hearing um, as far as music goes. Like, I didn't hear the audio, so I didn't think it was working. Um, yeah, welcome to the show. We're here, we're live. Good morning, Jim. I missed Tara last night. I fell asleep early and I just zonked out and I feel bad because I wanted to see the Tom Hartman interview. So now I'm going to have to do the old watch it later when watching it live is so much better. So that's on the to-do list. So I hope you can hear me okay. I hope you can see me okay. I hope you heard the audio okay. I didn't. And I'm just trying to figure out why I didn't because it's weird that my audio is so damn low. And let me just test something really quick while we're dealing with everything here. The audio is going out live. I can't hear it out of this headset. Um, that's a problem. So and I, sound is good and video is good. So this is a me problem, not a you problem. Which is good in this sense that we I honestly don't know what happened to my headset. So I need to be able to hear things when they happen. I need to be able to hear our good friend Jeff Waldorf when he comes on the show. So that's a problem that I can't hear him. Like that the volume is so low that I just can't hear it. So we're just gonna have to mosey on around the issue um and figure it out. I guess is what we're gonna do. So there's that. Always correcting things, always dealing with things as they happen. And I feel a little weird without my headset. It's like I'm missing something, but I know I'm not because I'm talking to you guys and I know it's live. We're just going to have to hope that there's no reverb back when I put the mic speakers in and do the interview this way. So I'm going to need you, the audience, to tell me and work with me on that. And I just feel like shit is basically it. Um, I guess we're just gonna do it live on the Nosy Liberal here today. Hashtag FYI Live if you want to tweet me, get in touch any particular way. We're gonna talk about some stories. I did some added show prep before the show started because frankly I didn't think I had enough stories that I wanted to do, and now I have the stories that I want to do, and I'm happy with that because we have Jeff Waldorf coming on, and Jeff is gonna do some stories with us probably. So I wanna like have something I want to talk about, right? Like I don't want to be boring to Jeff Waldorf from around the nation and TYT fame. I want to have something good for him and have something good for you. And I just block my face and the camera because that's a wise decision. Um, so sorry for the test thing, but the headset is not working, and we can't have that during a live show. And I don't have enough USB ports to put it in the USB side, so we're just gonna go without and hope for the best. And I just hope there's no reverb with it with Jeff. And I will I guess I'll mute when he talks, which is probably best, just so there's no echo back to you guys. I'll mute when he talks, and and go from there because I don't know what else to I don't know what else to do. Um, it's annoying. It's frustrating. But of all the things to be frustrated about in the world right now, with everything going on and with that Ukrainian drama place being bombed, we have the very least, we have the least things to be frustrated about. We really do. I mean, it's horrifying what's going on in the world right now, and we are just going through it as best we can. Um, and dealing with it as best we can. What I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch out really quick the microphone, and use the other mic. Um, Podcasting is complicated, Jim, and I'm not just podcasting. I'm vidcasting as well. It was a lot simpler when it was just audio. But with video and keeping the camera angle right and not looking a fool and acting a fool, it is difficult. Not to be, I love doing it. It's a passion of mine. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. But it is difficult. So let me switch out the headphones really quick and see if I could use the USB port for the microphone and switch this out. Just bear with me. It's going to be a little bit of silence for a second while we do this, but it'll be a quickie, I promise. So there's this. If that you should be able to hear me now, and that should be able to be heard. But I do not see the I don't see the headphone being in there for the actual headphones. So bear with me here. This is annoying. We're trying to do on the fly technology fixing, which you should do before a show. Like you should do this before the show, but unfortunately, I thought everything was working before the show, um, and now we're doing it. We're doing it live, and we're just seeing if we can get the sound to work for the show. And I'm using a different mic now. Let's see. Let's see. Don't want to use the speakers, and I don't know why it's not showing the speakers. So we're gonna switch back over to the other way and do it that way with the other microphone because it doesn't seem to be wanting to work properly. I don't know what's going on with these speakers, but they're not working, unfortunately, and that's devastating to me because they were a gift. One sec, we'll switch this back. Switching it back will be easier. Um, do Okay. Let's see now. Now we have the proper microphone that we're using back in, and that's just going to be how it is. We're just going to have to do it this way. My apologies again. I feel like I feel naughty. I feel bad. Um, I hate when technology fails. It's like we can never, ever. We don't have George Soros funding. That's the problem. We are not funded by tech giants. So we can never just like let it go. We can never just have a show where we don't have any technology issues, and here we are with the technology issues. So we're just gonna wing it and do the best we can. And I'll mute when I talk to Jeff and listen to what Jeff has to say, and we'll just do our best. And hopefully, there won't be any massive reverb with the me not having headsets on. It is weird that I don't. And I used to remember having earbuds somewhere, but I can't find them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take one last quick break. We'll play again, this is something I should have done beforehand, but I want to get this right for Jeff's show. I'm going to go search out some earbuds that I think I know where are, that I can borrow to be able to hear properly, to be more comfortable. Because if I'm not comfortable and you're not comfortable, that's not good. So I'm going to play broadcast for you guys. We'll be back in about 6 minutes. Here is broadcast with Brad Friedman while we fix the issue.
It's Tuesday, March 15, 2022.
The adverse health effects alone from power plant-related pollution are valued at $80 billion per year.
Biden EPA unveils new rules to clean up deadly smog and truck pollution.
Australia is becoming a harder country to live in because of these natural disasters.
Australia pummeled by weeks of torrential rains and deadly floods. Plus,
the energy firm saw fourth quarter profits hit their highest in 8 years.
Consumers pay at the pump while big oil pulls in big bucks.
All of that profiteering and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
President Biden has hosted electric vehicle stakeholders here at the White House. Would he host oil and gas producers, the people who are the most affected by the Putin price hike?
By the most affected, you mean the ones who are making the most money? Peter Doocy of Fox News, you imbecile? This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, the Russian invasion of Ukraine continues to roil the energy markets.
Yes, indeed it does. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has underscored how nations remain extraordinarily dependent on fossil fuels, even as they try to shore up supplies. At the same time, scientists are warning the world must slash fossil fuel use to avoid catastrophe. Bloomberg News on Monday reported that China plans a massive increase in coal mining to dramatically reduce its reliance on fossil fuel imports.
Great plan.
That will undercut China's climate policies in the near term. The Russian invasion has also laid bare the strategic vulnerability of fossil fuel dependence that can be wielded both as an energy weapon and an economic weapon. Officials report the Russian military has seized major gas infrastructure in eastern Ukraine, cutting off supplies to nearly 1 million people amid below freezing temperatures. Officials also say that late last week, Russian troops seized 2 compressor stations along a major gas pipeline from Russia to Europe that crosses Ukraine, a tacit warning that they can cut off all Russian gas imports to Europe.
The petro wars continue, and I guess they're going to continue until we get off this addiction.
The price of crude oil fell below $100 on global markets Monday after not quite reaching all-time highs that were set back in 2008. The surge in crude oil prices triggered instant price hikes for consumers at the pump over the last 2 weeks. But despite the drop in crude oil prices, it will likely take weeks for gas prices to fall for consumers.
That's a pretty good scam. So the price of oil futures goes up, so does the price at the pump. The price of futures comes down. Well, we'll see about lowering it. Maybe sometime next month.
Exactly.
Wow.
But oil industry profit margins in 2021 and the first quarter of 2022 have hit their highest levels in 8 years.
Sure they have.
Senate Democrats have introduced legislation to enact a windfall profit tax, alleging the oil industry is profiteering off of Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Alleging?
But that won't stop oil industry CEOs from cashing in. According to a new analysis by nonprofit groups Friends of the Earth and Bailout Watch, over just the last month, as Russia moved to invade Ukraine, big oil CEOs sold millions of dollars worth of shares, pulling in a combined profit of nearly $99 million. And over the last year, the CEOs of the 5 biggest oil companies together personally gained $8 billion in wealth.
Nice corrupt work if you can get it.
A national emergency in Australia.
There is no flood event that has occurred in this part of Australia like this in anyone's living or recorded memory.
Conservative Prime Minister Scott Morrison declared a national emergency after more than 2 weeks of climate change intensified record rainfall inundated vast areas from Brisbane to Sydney. The floods are being called one of Australia's worst ever disasters and have killed at least 22 people, rendered thousands of homes uninhabitable, and caused billions of dollars in damages. Numerous studies show intense precipitation events are becoming more common with man-made global warming. Finally, some good news. Noting that air pollution doesn't stay within state lines, the Biden Environmental Protection Agency unveiled new standards to cut nitrogen oxide, a pollutant released by power and chemical plants and other industries, a key ingredient of ozone-related smog. The new rule targets pollutants that drift across state lines. By 2026, EPA projects that every dollar.
My bad. I didn't mean to cut you off, Brad and Desi. It just automatic. And we're here. We're live. I have a headset that works. Yay! And it was the headset. Something with the earbud piece just malfunctions. So now I feel comfortable. Now I can do the show. You should always feel comfortable enough to do your own show. If you're not comfortable enough to do your own show, you're going to screw up the show for the audience. And that's what I didn't want to do today. And we're going to talk about the news now. Now we can scratch that first part of the show out of your memory. Just get it out, throw it out. It's done. It's gone. We can talk about something else now, something that matters, and move on from there. Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz matters, and we're going to talk about him, and we're going to talk about the crazy that is happening with Dr. Oz. So we're gonna do that right now, folks. I love this story from Breitbart. I don't think they realize that they're shooting themselves in the foot as they write stories like these about politicians that, like, they're pointing it out for their own readers, but it's like they're hurting themselves. I don't think they care either way, but it's like, why do that to yourself? Why hurt yourself? But if they want to do that, more power to them. Dr. Oz is already a flip-flopper. He isn't even in government yet. He hasn't had a vote yet. And Dr. Oz is already a flip-flopper. So Dr. Oz is a Turkish citizen, as some of you may or may not know. And he has had this as a part of his campaign that he would not take briefings because intelligence briefings because he is a Turkish citizen. Dr. Oz said, "No, I'm not going to take the briefings. I'll keep my Turkish citizenship." And now all that's changed on a dime. No core principle, these people. On the basic things, these people have no core principles. Are you going to keep your Turkish citizenship? Yes or no? This is an issue that's dear to me. I have the ability to have dual citizenship with the UK. If I was running, I would agree with Dr. Oz and be like, you know what? I'm not gonna keep my or I'm not gonna give up my citizenship. I'm not gonna I'll do the briefings. But somebody whispered in his ear, no, you got to do the briefings. You can't stand up for your core principles. You got to do the briefings. The briefings are more important than your core principles. Oz ignited a controversy this week when he said that he would possibly forego security clearance as a U.S. senator in order to maintain his dual citizenship with Turkey to care for his ailing mother, who suffers from Alzheimer's disease. So he's like, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to care for my ailing mother. I can love my country and I can love my mom. Dave McCormick, his opponent, was like, yeah, no, you can't. Let her die, bitch. Let her die. You can't love your country and love your mom at the same time. That's crazy talk. My dual citizenship has become a distraction to this campaign. I maintained it to care for my ailing mother, but after several weeks of discussions with my family, I'm committing that before I am sworn into the U.S. Senate for Pennsylvania, I will only be a U.S. citizen. I am a pussy. I am a weak man. Translation. I cannot stand up for core values. Translation. You want to be a dual citizen, be a dual citizen. But it would be nice if these people running for Senate would know ahead of time things that might preclude their job responsibilities. David McCormick was called bigoted and likened it to a time when Americans rejected Jews and Catholics. Oh, they still do. And I find it funny that that Dave is still on the attack. He released this statement, and Dave is like, "Do it now. Voters can't trust Mehmet Oz. He has lied about his position on abortion, the Second Amendment, immigration, masks, Fauci, to name a few. Renounce your Turkish. You're not Trump culty enough." I love the fighting with the Republicans, right? You're not Trump culty enough. You're not fully in the Trump cult. You're acting like a human being. How dare you act like a human being? You're not allowed to do that. Who said you could act like a human being? Who gave you that permission? Who gave you that green light? Dave McCormick fires back. Oh, I love it when they have primaries in the Republican Party. You can truly tell a real Republican by the way they carry their gun. And by gun, I mean penis. It's usually pretty small. They're compensating, my friends. They're compensating. Dave McCormick is compensating and has to attack Oz. as un-American when that's the least of his problems. He's a quack. You know, that's the least of his problems. He's not right-wingy enough for the right-wingers. So, Oz served in the Turkish military to maintain his dual citizenship. Both his parents were born in Turkey, which therefore grants him citizenship. Who do you stand with, Dr. Oz? The Trump cult or Erdogan? Member of the Trump cult, by the way. Not for nothing. I just love this story, man. It's like you're not Republican enough for us, Oz. And you hide your funny name to be more American. You call yourself Dr. Oz. Are you even a real doctor? Oz. We're just going to call you Oz now. Or better yet, we'll call you by your real non-white name. Your brown person name, Mehmet Oz. We're going to call you by your non-brown person name so we can scare all the right-wingers into voting for Dave McCormick for Pennsylvania. This is so easy for the Democrats to win. They make it so easy for the Democrats to win. I explain to me how it's not just the easiest race. Dr. Oz, who's bad at everything, and Dave McCormick, who is worse than bad at everything. Excuse me, I have a runny nose. Must be my medication acting up, which I took before the show, not during. That's why so much soda intake. I know, Tom, drink water, working on it. Although not today. But these people, right? You're not right winging, and Breitbart, I'm sure, is on the Dave McCormick side. But they're gonna fight for Dr. Oz if Mehmet wins. If Mehmet Oz wins, Mehmet is gonna be fought for by Breitbart, just not as hard. Like they're not gonna go barreling down the hallway for him like they would Dave McCormick, a real American hero. It's just funny, man. It's just real. It's hysterical. You're not white enough, basically. You are not white enough. How white do you want me to be? This white. You must be this white to ride this ride. I mean, Jesus. I'm surprised they don't attack Donald Trump for being as orange as he is. How do they say Donald Trump is a white man? He is the most orange creature that I've ever met. Someone explain that to me. They're attacking Oz here, Mehmet. I love that name too, by the way. Meh. You gotta love a name with meh in it. Meh is one of my favorite things to type out on the internet. So, like, I love meh. How you doing? I'm meh. So you gotta love a name with Mehmet in it. Like, if I were to have another child, I think I would name my child Mehmet, just so I could go around saying, "Hey, Mehmet! Hey, Mehmet!" And it would really freak out all the racists. But you gotta love a name with meh in it. It's like, it's better than an emoji. It describes exactly how you feel. Meh. How you doing? Meh. Like, I go to therapy today, and I'm going to tell my therapist, how am I doing? Meh. Meh. The pills are working fine, but I'm meh. The meds are good, but meh. Mehmet. I love the name. I gotta love the name. And it is... They use it. Dave McCormick uses it. Not white enough, dude. He's not white enough for you. You got to be this white to ride this ride. I don't know how you could be a member of the Republican Party and see a primary go down and be like, yeah, this is the party I'm going to stay in. That's why I'm convinced there are so many independents, because they just don't want to admit they're Republicans. Because why would you admit that? Like Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity is the biggest Republican crusader of them all. Oh, but I'm a independent. I'm an independent. Jim says, too bad he isn't as cool as his name. No, his name is totally awesome. I think I will change my name to Mehmet. And people can ask, how are you? I'm meh. I love that name, man. I'm gaga over the name. It's just fucking awesome. Hashtag FYI Live. Leave a comment in the comment section like Jim did. We're communicating that way today because we have an interview and enough things have gone wrong already that we've had to fix to bring in callers. So no callers today. But oh my God, Mehmet is getting beat up by Dave. And of course it's a Dave running, right? The most American name you can find. Dave is running. Oh, the whitest guy you could find is running against Mehmet. It like, you have to laugh at it, because if you don't, you're going to want to slit your wrists. Because they are truly like arguing over who is more white. I am this white. No, I am this white. No, I am this white. Jim says Mehmet Gaga Reynolds. Mehmet Gaga Reynolds. Yes, I am down with that. I am down with Mehmet Gaga Reynolds. Oh, that is awesome. That is something I can embrace. And every Republican would hate me. Every Republican would hate me. And I embrace that too. You want to hate, like, go, like, when you're going to come after me because we disagree, that you're going to try and tell me that the Republican Party is not racist as shit. You're going to try and tell me that. Like, come at me because we disagree. Don't come at me because, let's face it, my smile isn't pretty. Or, I have a back problem that gives me a hunch. You know, hunchback of FYI Nation. Because, by the way, I will come up with all the good names for me before a Republican does. Because I am into that self-hatred. And it takes a lot for me to get knocked down with the self-hatred, as we've been discussing on this show. So I can do it a lot better than any QAnon, Trump cult, Trumpanzee, right-winger, whatever you want to call them today, for tomorrow. Like, they used to be the Tea Partiers. Now they're the Freedom Caucus. Freedom! We love freedom! Unless you're trans. Then you're fucked. You're trans, you're fucked. No freedom for you. Like, and notice, like, that Dave McCormick and Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz, are not arguing about the issues. Like, at least Dave, when Dave attacks him, he is like, you're not right-wing enough for me. This is why you need to have this much. But this right-winger, Dave McCormick, is not going to win in a general election. He may win the primary, but Pennsylvania voters are going to say, fuck no. This is too much. And Dr. Oz knows that. And Dr. Oz, being a celebrity and being well known, thinks he has the Trump factor going for him. The Trump factor in the Republican Party, where he's that personality. And that's his grift. Long before dumpster diving into Republican politics, his grift was he was a personality. Oh, I think Oprah had him on his show. On her show. Then he got popular. So you listen to hashtag FYI Nation. Tom, work on your pitch here. You're listening to FYINation.com, hashtag FYI Live. You could tell that I literally had the worst night ever because I'm so, like, out of it today. Like, everything is off kilter today. And it's St. Patrick's Day, by the way. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I am not wearing green. Not for nothing. Maybe I'll wear green on Woke Talk Radio, but I'm not wearing green now. Spank me. Maybe I just want the spanking. That could be a possibility. I could just want the spanking. So we're live. We're doing the morning show. It's a great gig. I love the mornings. Except, okay, I love the mornings when they're happening. I hate getting up for the morning. Like, if morning was at noon, that would be perfect for me. But it's not. So we do a morning show at 9 a.m. right after Democracy Now! And most of the time, we get it pretty good. Except when we have tech issues like today. And they were of my own making. So we were able to fix them quickly. And stay on the air for the Jeff Waldorf interview later. And by the way, Jeff is confirmed. And I will have all the video edited tonight for everybody to take a look at. Jim says, I love the morning once there's coffee. Jim, dude, I am the Coca-Cola drinker, so I understand the coffee sensation. I have my two. In fact, I'll be out after these two. I will walk to the store, get my exercise, my fat bitch on, and I will walk to the store. Or for those who don't like the swearing, my fatty fat on. And I'm making, not today, but most of the time, yesterday for Woke Talk Radio, because we're going to be syndicated on Pacifica in a week or two, I'm making a consistent effort not to swear on Woke Talk Radio. Because the affiliates can't handle that. So I'm trying to do the same here. So if you notice that change in language tone, it's not because I'm muting myself. It's because I have to be FCC friendly. So we're getting there. And I think that's a big boost for FYNation.com. And this is another reason we want to do more shows and more programming, because we want to have national exposure for our shows and want to FYNation.com productions. Like, that is my dream with this network. So like the 9 o'clock, like I love doing a talk show, but I'll be straight with you guys. I'd love even more producing a show. Now, at one point I was Tara Devlin's producer, and that didn't go so well. And it was all my fault. Tara did nothing wrong. Just want to say that up front. That was my fault because I was not, when you think you're game and you're ready to do something and you're pumped to do it in your head, but on paper, everything is like, you can do this. You think you can do this. And then when you actually go and do it, it just falls to pieces. That was me executiving executive producing Tara Devlin's show. I took too much on at a time when I shouldn't have, and it was my fault. No, that I didn't repost the Nazi meme. That was something entirely different. But that was not me. I'm talking about producing a show, not ruining RTD Daily. That was somebody else. I was a part of RTD Daily, but I had to resign because of health issues. And it was devastating to me because I don't like letting people down. But I knew that if I continued to do it, I would have not been able to do for her what I set out to do for the both of us. Does that make sense? So I felt it was for our best, to save our friendship, essentially, which I think it did. I had to resign. Because as a person, and I know I'm kind of airing dirty laundry, but I feel it's necessary to explain where I'm going with this network and what I'm trying to build here. We're trying to build a network that has other hosts, and I run them. And we run shows on this YouTube channel. And I would love at some point Tara Devlin's show to be a daily show. But she needs Patreon subscribers to be able to do that. And we need Patreon subscribers to be able to support her. So we're not there yet. And I don't know that she totally is on board with doing a daily show. Because doing a daily show is a huge commitment. It's a commitment to your audience. It's a commitment to you. And sometimes you got to know, like when I resigned from RTD Daily, you got to know when you can't do something. You got to know it. You got to know your limits. You can't be like Dr. Oz. Going back to the story, you can't be like Dr. Oz and be like, I'm going to run for Senate and be a Turkish citizen. Yeah. And think there will be no one making a giant case out of that. I mean, Christ. Red flag numero uno in the Republican Party. Not for me, but for people who think they're American enough. So you gotta know when you're about to do something, what you can and can't do. And my biggest fault, and I'm working on this in therapy, my biggest fault is the oversell. Like, I desperately want people to like me. And I don't think I'm likable. So what I do is oversell my abilities. And then I fail. Inevitably. Because I've oversold my ability. And it goes in flames like a Trump steak. And I'm trying to stop that from happening. Like, it took 5 years for us to get the FYI Nation radio player out. I wanted it out the first week we were on the air. Because we were going to be different. It took me 5 years to get a working app in the app stores. Both of them. I run before... I jump without running. That's the best way to put it. And again, working on it. Because I don't want to fuck up for you guys. I want this network to be here for you long term. I want to be able to hand this over to my kid. And my kid to be able to do this because she's political to a certain degree. Not as much as I am, but she's has a nose for politics. And I think she'd be good at it. And if she wants to do it, she could do it. But I want to be able to. I want the network to grow, and me not swearing so much on Woke Talk Radio and making it a habit is part of what I'm doing to get us affiliates for Woke Talk Radio. Because the hour show is something that I want to grow into a 2-hour show and have a call-in portion in the second hour. But we're nowhere near there yet, and we're not going to be there for a while. But that's the plan. That's the goal. See, I've had to learn that there's a difference between having a goal and having a milestone. A milestone is something that you can get to meet your goal. The goal is the grand thing at the end of the rainbow. The milestone for us right now is 1,000 subscribers. The goal is 100 watchers on YouTube for a live. I think we could do that. We just got people to get people to like and share and become a part of the community. And it's 27 after the hour. You are listening to FYNation.com, hashtag FYI Live. Tweet us at hashtag FYI Live or at FYI Nation. My email to send me hate mail or a love letter, Tom at FYNation.com. I check my email daily. And I will read email on the air. I would love hate mail. Oh, I want me some hate mail, man. Bring that hate mail. I live for the hate mail. So do that. Listen to FYNation.com on the radio and I've been having trouble with the recordings for SoundCloud, but that should be fixed momentarily. Again, milestone goal. And we should have that back up and running soon as well. But Dr. Oz, man, I love this. I love Jim's comment. I wish it would show. Let me put it up this way. Jim says, I won't encourage any fucking swearing then. Yes, we cannot encourage Tom to swear. Encouraging Tom to swear is not a wise thing right now. The note should be yep. Never mind. Oh, yep. Okay, got it. So the note should be that Tom Reynolds, and just confirm Jeff Waldorf. The note should be that when Tom Reynolds is really angry, he doesn't swear. Like I don't even say damn. Like when I'm really angry, I just it's like I stop and then we have Tom Reynolds is just pissed. And it's weird for me doing a talk show without swearing because I like to emphasize my words with swearing. It's just something about me. I like being Howard Stern rated. And I can't do that on the FCC channels. So I have to one up my performance and figure out new ways to deal with it and new ways to handle it. And I think I will. It just takes a minute. And it takes, you know, your ability to know yourself. And that's what the show is about, right? We're trying to destroy narratives on this mortar coil that we're on. And we're desperate to do it properly. And like I'm gonna save the video for tomorrow, but Pat Robertson broke the glass again for the 700 Club. He just should come back, maybe permanent guest host. You know, like Johnny Carson in the old days used to have the permanent guest host for the Johnny Carson show, and at one point it was Joan Rivers, and then they didn't speak after a while because Joan Rivers went to Fox and did a horrible job at hosting a show. But Johnny punished her for that and ruined the friendship. See, I could never do that to somebody. To me, friendship and loyalty come before political views, come before everything. Like me and my best friend Steven, we don't always agree. He's more independent. Like if the Republicans were like a legitimate, not frightening party, I think Steven might be a Republican. Like his brother Chris. But he's a Democratic supporter. And he is a lot of the reasons I'm able to do this network. And he is a huge supporter of what I do. Because he even said that the network is funded by the business. I prophesied Pat Robertson's end time is coming soon, Jim says. I love it. I love it, Jim. His end time is coming soon. And we'll have a little party. We'll do the best of clips. By the way, my girlfriend got a question on the 700 Club. She wrote them a fake question, and Pat Robertson actually answered it on the air, and it was on the Young Turks back in the day. So score one for the girlfriend. There's that. And the other thing I need to learn how to do, since we're running through the things I need to learn how to do, I need to learn how to not close my phone when people are in mid conversation with me. I do that when I'm tired. Right? Have you ever done that before where like you think the conversation's done and you put the phone away and then you see this message from somebody and it's hours later or the next day in my case and you look like a fucking tool? Like that right there is me. That is me. I have an awful habit. But I have gotten better at it where I'm warning people now that like I'm a mess right now. Maybe we shouldn't talk. Or I might, I'm trying to lay down. But I still go and lay down and just forget about it. Like last night. Last night I left my France 24 feet on and I went straight to bed at like 7 o'clock. I didn't even load the FY Nation shows, so I'm sorry about that. I was just so out of it for numerous reasons. And you just there are moments in time where you just feel like you have to give yourself a break. Like Robin probably did the best thing for herself yesterday after our show. And she was like, you know what? I'm not doing a show tonight. And Robin didn't go live on her show because of her allergies. And that's okay. Sometimes, like, there will be days that we don't do a full show. Or I don't do woke talk radio. And that's okay. That's why we have to give each other a little bit of slack. It's like we talked about this yesterday on Woke Talk Radio, and I think it deserves repeating. The Joe Manchin monster came out, and he basically had a vice chair Fed nominee resign the nomination because Joe Manchin couldn't handle her fossil fuel hate. My words, not hers. And he couldn't handle that. So Joe Manchin, monster, made it with Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski that the nomination was going to be torpedoed. How is it that Joe Manchin has so much power in the Democratic Party that he gets to side with the Republican and torpedo a presidential nomination? Joe Manchin, go away. West Virginia voters, make Joe Manchin go away. Because he doesn't understand what leadership is. He only cares to lead by his fossil fuel grift and contributions. He doesn't care about the people of West Virginia. So if you're gonna do this in this damn silly way, get a Republican in there. And let a real Democratic person lose to a Republican, as opposed to this faux Democrat in West Virginia's Senate. It's pathetic. Somebody needs to take one for the team and either win against Joe Manchin and win the seat, or being too left, or something. We'll be right back. This is Nosey Liberal. We are live on FYNAC.
FYI Nation can now be heard on your favorite Android or Apple phone. Simply go to FYINation.com and scan the QR code at the bottom of the page to download the app. FYINation.com radio player app is commercial-free thanks to your Patreon contributions at FYINation.com. If you have a smart device, you can also listen to FYINation.com as a skill on your Alexa or Google Home smart devices. FYI Nation now has more ways than ever to listen to shows like mine, the Thom Hartmann Program, commercial-free every day.
Hey, ho, ho. Welcome back to the show. It is the second hour of the program, and we're kind of meandering through the first hour with technical difficulties. Now we're going to really dive into the news and topics, and I've gotten my sea legs, if you will, and I'm ready to go. And we have Jeff Waldorf with us coming soon, and I really want to talk. Can we talk? As Joan Rivers used to say, can we talk? I think we can. I think we're gonna have a great show today, despite the negative bullshit that we dealt with earlier. And I want to talk about Lindsey Graham. Oh my God, Lindsey Graham, Miss Lindsey. Miss Lindsey had a spine for a moment, a brief moment. Miss Lindsay had a spine. And this book is getting all this play because it reports that Miss Lindsay had a spine for a brief interlude in time during the January 6th drama. She had a spine. And it's nice that a new book is pointing out that Graham discussed 25th Amendment for Trump on January 6th. It's nice that somebody did. But not for nothing. It didn't happen. Lindsey Graham called the White House on January 6th and said lawmakers would ask cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove then President Trump from office if he did not do more to condemn the rioters at the Capitol. According to a new book by Jonathan Martin and Alexander Burns, this will not pass, says Graham furiously. Axios reported. We will be asking for you for the 25th Amendment. Graham's office now has no spine and no comment about it because he wants to remain Donald Trump's bestie and golfing buddy. The 25th Amendment allows the vice president and the majority of the cabinet to issue a written declaration to the Senate and Congress stating that the president is unable to discharge their powers, and then would move to allow the vice president to assume the powers of the acting president. According to the Martin Burns book, Graham said he hoped the January 6th attack on the Capitol would unite the country as he left the building that night. People will say, I don't want to be associated with that. There will be a rallying effect for a while. The country says, well, we are better than this, Graham said. And yet, where is Lindsey Graham on this side of history now? No comment. Hashtag no spine. Typical Trump cult behavior. That's why hashtag Trump cult is so important. Because it's not, you need to throw them all in the bucket to be able to have this conversation at this point. Lindsey Graham, office should be like, yeah, I got a comment. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that happened. And what? But spineless Lindsay and her fainting couch needs to play that next round of golf with Donald J. Trump. And can't be like, yeah, that happened. Yeah, that was the thing. Instead has to be like, oh no, comment, I am reek. A lot of reeks. See, they're all alike. It's a lot of reeks in the Republican Party. A lot of, oh, you cut my balls off. I can't find my balls because you cut them off in the Republican Party. I'll wait if you have an explanation for me, other than they're all exactly like Donald Trump. But Tom, they're different. Jim says there can't be any nuance. Yes, at this point, there is no nuance. With the Republicans, there is no nuance. There are different, as Robin Kincaid said yesterday when things were working with technology, the Republican Party is how it is, and they're not going to change. It's the path they're on. I'm paraphrasing, of course. But it's the path they've chosen. They think it works. So you get people like Dave McCormick, who wants to be the next senator of Pennsylvania, acting like Trump. It's a Trump cult. It was a Reagan cult. Now it's a Trump cult. The evolution there is not much. Ronald Reagan tried to be Mr. Nice Guy. Like, he tried to be good cop, bad cop at the same time. And he was just a bad cop. He was a bad politician. He was a bad president. But the Republican Party has made him out to be this beacon of liberty and light and freedom that he never was. And all you have that is good in the Reagan economy is runoff from the Jimmy Carter days, when Jimmy Carter was trying to do things like deal with the energy crisis. Like, imagine if we had solar panels everywhere now, solar farms everywhere. Imagine how better off we would be. Jim says the base can't handle complex thoughts. They can't handle critical thinking either. That's why critical race theory is such the devil. He wants partisanship, but doesn't want to go and claim it. So in that, I say no partisanship for you. If you can't be with the January 6th committee and investigate the crimes of January 6th and be as angry as you were the day of, I want nothing to do with you. There's nothing that can be said that could change my mind to say, oh, well, Lindsey Graham, he's one of the good guys because he's so pro-Israel. There's nothing you could... Miss Lindsay is just a war hawk. And he never met a war he didn't like. Him and his battle buddy, John McCain. And he needs to just come out already. Hashtag come out Lindsay. I would have far more sympathies for Lindsey Graham if he just came out already. It would explain his self-hatred. And why he's willing to, like, hang out with the like, he got so bullied by Donald Trump during the primary that he has decided, I'm going to be with the bully so I don't get bullied again. Like, I felt that hurt. That hurt so badly, and I don't want that happening to me again. He's made a strategic call in strategic land that I do not want to have that happen again. So I am not going to put myself through that level of pain and suffering. Because I'm sure it was traumatic for Lindsey Graham. The whole country is laughing at you. And calling your cell phone at the same time. Remember that? That seems like a decade away. Because Lindsey Graham had the gall to stand up to the Trump cult. And then Lindsey Graham gets consumed by the Trump cult. Imagine that. The Trump cult eats them up, then spits them back out. And they become Trumpanzees. It has to be chilling to be so unnerved that you will embrace your bully. And that's why I will say that Republicans like Lindsey Graham and Mitt Romney are willing collaborators to the Trump cult. They may not be in the Trump cult. They may have their minds of their own and speak their truth, and that's all fine and good. But when you get down to the truth, they are collaborators to the Trump cult Republican Party. And make no mistake about it, the Republican Party is the party of Donald Trump. There's no factioning off, there's infighting, but as we've pointed out, and let's be honest about this, the infighting is how more extreme you can be to the right of Donald Trump. That's the infighting. The infighting is not, let's find consensus among the American people to bring about good policy. The consensus is, let's attack, and make sure our gaslighting works against the American people, so we can win and we can demolish Joe Biden. I know the Republican talking points work when they're used by my liberal-leaning friends. And even Beto O'Rourke. You instantly pick that up. You learn that. Lindsay voted with Trump 80% of the time. Well, I guess that's better than 90. Jim, come on. You're not cutting Lindsey Graham some slack. You need to cut Lindsey Graham some slack, man. Why are you so mean to Lindsey? And Lindsey Graham, his crime, his ultimate crime was to warn the Republican Party about what it was getting himself into. So, again, how are they not collaborators, if not a part of the Trump cult? Explain that to me. Okay, so they're not exactly Trumpanzees. That's great. They're not exactly Trumpanzees, but they're members of the Trump cult, and they're totally okay. Jim says, I could never hate him as much as he hates himself. Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. That is very true, Jim. Hashtag FYI Live if you want to communicate with the show. We always have hashtag FYI Live up. In fact, hashtag FYI Live up is where you find the stories that we're talking about while we discuss the news. Long form here. It took Tara Devlin and Mike Malloy and Robin Kincaid to get me off the notion that there's any nuance with the Republican Party. And I honestly didn't want to see it because I was Republican once. And I was trying to make excuses for myself because it was deeply personal. Like, I was the Lindsey Graham of the 90s. I was that guy or girl. However, I was that person. How's that? That good? Proper pronouns, everyone. But the reason I don't have my name up on the YouTube channel is I want people to tweet hashtag FYI Live too, so we can get the word out about the network. And I think at some point, Jim, we need to talk offline because since you're here so often and you're already doing it for Tara, if you would volunteer to be our chat room monitor, that would be awesome. I would adore that, and I would give you those permissions as soon as I figure out how. I'll ask Tara Devlin if it's a job you want to take. That being said, um, because you're here and you're very welcoming, and I think you will deal well with the bots. And Jim gave is okay, so that's awesome. I love the comments section. I love the participation. We need to like we need to focus on the fact that the Republican Party is no good. And that the fact that the Republican Party needs to be defeated at all costs. And it's a two-pronged approach. We need to pick up seats to disqualify Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Do you understand? We need to cut their legs off. Because they have held President Biden's policies up for Republicans. They have done Republican bidding. So you do not get rewarded for doing Republican bidding. No blue, no matter who for you. Oh, so we can keep power? What good is power if you're not going to support the President of the United States who makes the policies for the party? I mean, Pete's sake, we need to be a little bit of Republican. So, no break, because we took a long break earlier. Hashtag FYI Live, FYINation.com. Download the app if you so choose. Jeff Waldorf will be with us shortly. Back to what I was saying before the break music cut me off. We need to like be stronger, and we need to coalesce around each other to defeat the Trump cult. It's not enough to be vocal about it and tell people about it. Like there are progressives out there who are like, well, it's not that bad. Yes, it is. I mean, how bad does it have to be for you to accept that it's that bad? I mean, seriously, how bad does it have to be for you to accept that the Republican Party is that bad? It took me longer because I was personally involved with the Republican Party, and you like nuance. And I was trying to have my cake and eat it too. But to dismiss the evils that they're doing, the race baiting, the whitewashing, the gaslighting. And Jim says about being chat room monitor, I will make sure I behave properly. I behave properly. Thank you, Jim. That is always helpful. But Jim, you could also feel free, like I do every once in a while, to let your Wang Chung hang loose. That's always sometimes necessarily appropriate. That being said, when you have somebody like Lindsey Graham in power saying privately, I'll do this, and then not be able to say it publicly, that just makes you spineless. Lindsey Graham would rather have the next golf outing with Donald Trump than actually show that he is with a spine. And it's pathetic. It's sad. It's unfortunate. And I really wish my counter for the show worked slightly better. And I don't know why the links didn't work. Or Jeff was asking about the link, and Jeff found it in the chat. That for those who don't know about me and haven't been around often, one thing about me is I'm very disorganized, and I'm trying to become organized. And I'm learning this in therapy on how to cope as someone who is organized. And that's why we had the breaks, the break music on, because the break music is supposed to be a visual reminder, because I have a notification that pops up that you guys don't see, and a audio reminder. Check tweets, check the chat room, check this, check that, do this, do that, blah blah blah. So it's a reminder that I have set. So I know that I have to have things done because I don't have an executive producer. And plus it keeps me from rambling, which I've done a lot this show, so I appreciate those who have stayed along for the ramble, because it has been a little bit, it's not been so tight, and I've had a lot to say today on this St. Patrick's Day. And the headphone thing threw me off really badly when we started. So I apologize for that. That one I am going to apologize for. I should always kind of check that beforehand, but sometimes shit happens. I am working towards us having the least amount of technical issues as possible. And as some of you might notice, I am wearing a different headset. It's actually my mother's. I'm going to buy a new headset and get that taken care of in the next day or two. Hopefully sooner than that. But let's go on to the next story. I think we could do this one quickly with Jeff Waldorf coming on shortly. Hashtag FY Live if you want to see the stories. They pop up, or they should pop up in hashtag FY Live. They are definitely on the Twitter feed. If you follow me on Twitter, I post them as we go on. Though my Twitter seems to be running slow today, which is weird. But the next story that we have is something kind of obvious at this point. It's kind of like talking about a Republican. You all know exactly what a Republican is. So you kind of feel it's unnecessary to call the Republican out on what he is. But sometimes you just, for leadership's sake, and the story is from the Daily Mail, for leadership's sake, you have to call out the person or the thing for what it is, right? You have to call out Putin as, hey, a war criminal. And the story, let's get that larger, Biden calls Putin a war criminal for the first time, and the Kremlin slams unforgivable rhetoric from a head of state who bombs and kills thousands. Yada, yada, yada. He's mad. Sorry about the ad. Don't want that. I'm trying to get rid of the ad. So they're mad. They're upset. They're cranky about it. They are a little pissy biscuit here. And it took, I don't know if this was a gaffe or if he, there's a whole process before you call somebody a war criminal. You gotta do this, and then you gotta do that, and then you call him a war criminal. But Joe Biden punted the process, as Joe Biden punts the process. And this is what I like about him. He speaks his mind, but it's not like I don't know, a bull in a china shop like Donald Trump speaks his mind. He actually makes sense when he speaks his mind. So that's always a nice difference from what we're used to, right? We're used to Donald Trump just bomb the shit out of him with Chinese flag planes. That's what we're used to. We're not used to a thoughtful president who, when he speaks his mind, is telling the truth and what the majority of American people and the world thinks. But there have been 20 days of atrocities, and basically, get that wrong one. There we go. Basically, this president has said, I think he was a war criminal when asked by a reporter about Putin's relentless attacks on civilians. He didn't say it in a speech. He didn't bring out the red carpet for it. He offhandedly said, I think Putin is a war criminal. He told the truth. That's what, oh my God, we're expected to get from the President of the United States. Not this George W. Bush, well, I saw the whites of his eyes and I think I can trust Putin. And then he goes on The View, and I saw this on TikTok. He went on The View and he told this story about his dog and how Putin brought out his dog in Russia and introduced his dog and said, my dog can take on your dog. And George... It's almost as a... We're going to have a quick no break because we're going to have Jeff Waldorf on. He should add himself any moment, I hope, as long as everything fucking cooperates. I'm going to watch for Jeff just to make sure. Let's see. So there's that. But George W. Bush backtracks it and doesn't speak his actual mind because he's political. Joe Biden announces an $800 million military package and drones for Vladimir Zelensky. And is like, yeah, that Putin guy, he's a war criminal. I love a guy in office telling the truth. It's a great thing. The Kremlin was mad. Unacceptable and unforgivable rhetoric, as you would expect the Kremlin to say. And it's like, really? Seriously? Unacceptable and unforgivable rhetoric? Well, how about the unacceptable and unforgivable actions you're taking against the Ukraine people? The Ukrainian people. My apologies. On Wednesday, Ukraine and Russians bombed a theater in Mariupol that had been used as a shelter for people hiding from Moscow's attacks. Good for the drones, but they're not there yet. They'll be there and hopefully be able to stop more atrocities. They're worried that Putin could soon bring chemical weapons to Ukrainians because he doesn't care about international war crimes or committing war crimes or any of that. He just doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care, Putin. And the West is just kind of there, doing the bare minimum for Ukraine. and that's kind of sad. No, no. Hold on. Link. Let me get the link for him, and this is, do, do, do. I backup. I'm just letting him know the Skype is the backup. So, sorry about that. When you're your own producer, you got to make sure that everything works and everybody can get in and do it right and go from there. But we're going to talk about this with Jeff Waldorf when he comes on the air. We're going to talk about a poll that I found this morning. Jeff likes to do polls, and I like when Jeff talks about polls. I think I have a different take on this particular poll, and we'll dumpster dive into that take. I am very interested what Jeff Waldorf's take on the poll is when it comes to it. So I'm just waiting on him to pop in, and as soon as it does, I don't know why StreamYard is being so slow today, but let's see. Let me also load my Skype just in case, because we had that issue yesterday. I love technology. It's so much fun. Let's see. He's messaging me. Link no good. I don't know what is going on with this. Try Skype. Try Skype. I will add you. I don't know what is going on with this. Um, uh, because it's supposed to be working, but it's not. So we're gonna log into Skype and we're gonna get Jeff Waldorf up on the Skype screen because it's saying the link for the invitation is no good. So what is the point of having this software if the software is not going to work the way you want it to work? I don't understand. It makes no flipping sense to me. Um, it really annoys the batshit. It makes me batshit crazy. So we're calling Jeff on Skype, and he's calling me. So let me try and call him again. I guess I'm just gonna have to use Skype. Is what's gonna have to happen. And I don't like adding that extra thing. Oh, he's here. No, I don't. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Hey, yeah, the second link you sent didn't work, but the first one works. So interesting.
Oh, great.
Technology,
yeah.
you know how it works.
No, absolutely. I love how technology just fails me sometimes.
Sometimes.
But like this morning, we had our headset that I use. I couldn't hear, so I'm now using my mother's headset to do the show. Because that's how it is.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Yes, and I'm still waiting on my George Soros check. I am very pissed off that I have not gotten that check yet, Jeff. Because damn it, where is it? Where is the George Soros check?
I don't know. I think he's too busy funding migrant caravans in
bastard,
and going to Mexico or coming from Mexico. So, that whole conspiracy theory. Hi, that's something that I do on the show. I don't know if any of your viewers are familiar with who I am or what I do, but let me introduce myself.
I was going to do that. I was getting there.
Okay, well, let me just
for the course. Hold on.
Let me kick it off. All right. So I'm Jeff Waldorf, host of Around the Nation with Jeff Waldorf on Waldorf Nation. It's my YouTube channel. We stream to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and I do political commentary from a left point of view, leftist, working class.
Yeah, but you're a neoliberal. You're a neoliberal democratic chill, though.
Am I? I don't. I'm unfamiliar with such things. It's weird. It's. I believe in seizing the means of production as well as the memes. The best memes, as Marjorie Taylor Greene would put it. This is a simple meme that you will find on the internet, but this meme is very real.
Yes.
Very real. So we got the realest memes here on my show. So, hey, by the way, when I'm back from sabbatical, you can check it out, of course, 4 p.m. Eastern every day. So if you haven't
You had one of
already,
those too. I myself took a little sabbatical from doing this, and now we're all in again. So
it helps to
I
take some
know.
time off for yourself when you
Yes,
are inundated with bad news. And
yes,
nothing is worse than I think this current news cycle, which I'm sure we'll be heading into.
yes. In fact, I have a story that I am posting to the Twitters as we speak that I want to cover because I remember something about you, Jeff. You like
Hmm.
polls. You like
Do
to
I?
talk about polls,
Do I like
and
polls?
and you like to talk about polls and what they mean. Now, I this particular poll says to me that Americans are stupid. But maybe
Uh-oh.
you'll have a different
It is
take
this
on
a
it.
is this a Fox News poll?
No, it's a Blaze poll. It's
Oh,
a Blaze poll.
oh, so pretty close. Well,
Pretty close.
considering the audience that they are polling,
Yes.
you might be correct in the fact that they
Although
could
the
be stupid.
problem with that analogy, though, my friend, is so many
Could be.
corporate outlets are now going with right-wing talking point questions for polls. Places like the Blaze and Breitbart will say, "Look, we're being reasonable in our criticism because they're polling the American people, and we're on the right side of history, even though they're not," and use the poll to attack Joe Biden and the Democratic Party and
Well,
what we're trying to do.
right. Well, I mean, conservative framing is part and parcel to corporate media. And
Yes.
so this is not a surprise, but all right.
So the poll is likely voters overwhelmingly think Biden should make boosting the U.S. energy production a priority. Poll. Again, the American people are stupid. Poll. And this is a right wing group, the Trafalgar polling agency.
Sure.
They are loved by Trumpanzees across the nation. So take this poll with a grain of salt.
Or a
Um,
whole damn bottle.
yes, yes. 77% of likely general election voters think that, and they didn't even do registered voters, not for nothing, likely, um, think that in the wake of the Russian incursion into Ukraine, President Biden should make boosting U.S. energy production a priority. Just 9.3%, the smart people, uh, didn't think so. And the really dumb people, 13.5%, were unsure about how well the Republican talking points work. Is what I added to
Mm,
the article
mhm.
because this is what this is. The energy, we got to be U.S. energy independent. Forget about climate change. Yada yada yada. Boost American fossil fuels. It's out of the ground. Drill, baby, drill. This is the narrative they're trying to push. Am I wrong in that? Or
That is not only the narrative that they're trying to push on the right wing, they're also trying to push this, at least when it comes to centrist circles. And
yes,
so understand that um, you have oil companies, lobbyists that are pushing to say, "Oh, we're having a so-called energy crisis.
hmm
Well, let's just drill into the ground. Let's produce more oil." Well, we're still one of the world's top oil producers. And by the way, the price of oil is near back down to nearly $100 a barrel. Certainly not the lowest that we've seen, but certainly not the highest either. Nothing that would justify the rising gas prices. And so what we have here is an issue not enough energy supply. You realize that we get about the United States imported about 8% of Russian oil.
hmm
So
yeah,
now we're in a different boat than the European Union, which got 40% of their natural gas from Russia. They're in some serious
hmm
problems, right? If they sanction their oil and gas, and I think they might have.
yeah.
But as far as the United States goes, and our energy needs, we currently have more than enough domestic oil. And by the way, I mean, speaking of the framing, right? You're aware
hmm
that there is no such thing as energy independence, at least when
Oh
it
yeah,
comes to
no,
fossil
totally.
fuels. It
Yeah,
doesn't exist. It's
absolutely.
a
We're
fake
talking about.
concept.
I was not like
No, no,
saying that that's an actual thing.
no. I'm addressing the talking point because
Yeah.
you hear that a lot, and we've heard that a lot for a very long time. And so, in reality, of course, and by the way, the thing that they're bringing up is the Keystone XL pipeline. The Keystone XL pipeline, all that would do was it would be connect the United States to Canada's oil supply,
Mhm.
which is the tar sands, the dirtiest type of fossil fuel product that you can imagine.
Yep.
Pipe it through the United States. Pipelines leak, and by the way, the bitumen oil is very, very viscous, very dirty,
Mhm.
and very prone to leakage. And so all that pipeline would do is just ship it through the United States at great risk of leaking into our aquifers
Yep.
down to Texas, where it gets refined and sold by corporations on the world market. If you actually wanted to solve the issue of gas prices, you can do a couple of things. Number one, nationalize our oil. Oh,
Yes.
BP? You can't have it. It's the United States' oil now. Biden's not going to go in that direction. The other thing we could do, Biden could say no more exports. We're done exporting, which would make energy prices around the world worse, but might bring it down here. And those are two of those
Well,
options
and
that he
the
could do
other
today.
the third thing, Jeff, to cut you off is you could go green. You could
Yes,
push
that's the other option.
electric cars. You could what we suggested on this show a couple of days ago was we suggested tax credits for those buying battery chargers in homes.
Mhm.
So if you have a home and you buy a battery charger, you get, say, the $3,000 back in a tax credit
Yep.
at the end of the year.
So there's one issue with that, by the way, and I'm a
Sure.
big supporter of what you're saying. We should absolutely go green. We should actually absolutely have been going green. The
Mhm.
only issue, of course, is we didn't make the requisite infrastructure improvements that we should have. The Biden
Yes.
infrastructure bill did absolutely nothing, and even if it had, it's going to take a while to ramp that up. And so
Yeah.
that's the one issue with that. Right now, the American people are looking for a quick fix, an immediate fix. You know how it is, right?
Mhm.
We got to get something done. We got to do it now. And what you have to do is you have to go after the price gougers. You have to stop
Mhm.
them, these private corporations, from jacking up energy prices and trying to blame inflation. I got another
Mhm.
poll which actually shows that Americans are smart.
Oh, please
You have
bring me the smart
uh,
people.
yeah, so this is Data for Progress, which is left wing and groundwork collaborative. And it found that the majority of the American people, Republicans, Democrats, and independents alike, the majority of all of those, this is out of 1,500 potential voters. And it was a poll done back in February, found that 51% of Republicans, 76% of Democrats, and 62% of independents think that agree that corporate greed, not rising costs and wage increases, are part of the current inflation crisis. Meaning that, of course, the American people know what's in the reason for these price increases. Now, there's another thing too. I think what it shows is a vast majority of the country also thinks that they're happy to pay increased prices in gas at the pump in order to help with the Ukraine crisis. And so they're saying, look, yeah, we'll pay a little bit more in gas to help Ukraine. Now, of course, that doesn't go to help Ukraine. It doesn't. It only goes to help these giant oil companies, these big corporations. And so, what you have here is the American people generally agreeing that there is an issue with corporate greed, generally agreeing that there is an issue with, or saying that we'd be okay with paying more at the pump if it meant stopping Putin. And then also, like I said, kind of invalidating what the Blaze poll has been saying.
Yes.
Because
The right, let's just call it the right wing Trump cult poll.
yeah, and really that's, I mean, the people that put that out, put that out for a purpose, put that for a narrative. And you've heard of polls being very, very selective. and
Yes.
who they decide to pull. I'm guessing that they're pulling energy executives
Yeah.
because it doesn't break down who they're talking about. It doesn't break them down by income, doesn't break them
Yep.
down by age or affiliation
Yep.
generally. And so unless I
And
missed that
likely,
part.
and also likely voters. They're not even registered voters. So like to take
Right.
stock, like to make this like literally this is only for the narrative, the good of the narrative for the Blaze,
Mhm.
because they want to be able to say, "Ooh, look, we're right. We're on the right track with this talking point."
And not even that, just like Biden wrong, Biden bad, Biden
Yeah.
Biden gas hike. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Now we both know the president doesn't control gas prices.
Yes.
We can go all the way back to George W. Bush when he said, I wish I had a magic wand that said low gas." Yeah.
Yep.
And well, he didn't have that. Nobody has the magic wand. Nobody has the one that makes gas go up. Nobody has it that makes it go down. And really, the only thing is, I mean, he has executive orders. That is his magic wand, honestly. He's got executive orders, and he can say unilaterally, let's just not export to other countries during this crisis. And you could immediately do something in gas prices.
Well, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And
I'm
it's
sorry, that was a lot of that was a big long string of thoughts there.
well, no, that it's important to discuss because on corporate media, this isn't like they'll find this poll and what it bleeds in. Like even if they talk about it as Fox News decides to talk about this poll, and it will somehow bleed into the corporate narrative, and we need to fight against that narrative because Joe Biden does not control gas prices. There's nothing really the president can do, whether it's Trump or Biden. So for Trump to take the credit for lower gas prices is a misnomer. And if you're going to believe that, you're a moron. It's that simple.
And once again, there are the steps that Joe Biden could take, but he chooses not to as well, because unfortunately for us, Biden is still honoring his, I think, most important campaign promise that he's ever made. The only one that he's really promised to do, and that's for nothing to fundamentally change. The promise that he made to his donors.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. Because it's hard to root for a guy who is actually trying to do stuff with climate change and climate issues, but he has to like break that promise. I would like to see him break that promise because that would take away the talking point that the far left has of the Democratic and the Republicans are exactly the same. And then we could point and say, no, Joe Biden is not exactly the same. Instead of seeing Joe Biden doing these baby step things that that donors will approve of, as opposed to, not doing anything at all, which is worse, or doing it half-assed, which is equally as bad.
Yeah, I mean, on issues like this, they are more the same than they are different. I'm not saying exactly the same, but generally the way that it trends is, Republicans are 100% pro-business. Democrats are like 95% pro-business and pro-corporate. Really where the big difference is, of course, lies in the culture wars. And that's a completely different topic.
Yeah, no. But it's one that we're going to be jumping into in a minute.
Of course.
So I'm glad you brought that up. But one last thing about this is I do like, though, that the right wages war and makes it so we have to praise this president for doing stuff, because Breitbart just did an article about Biden going to his donors and saying, look, I'm going to need your help on climate change. And if I don't get your help with Congress, I'm going to take some executive action. And Biden has not made any executive action changes in regards to climate change yet, but Breitbart prematurely ejaculated over themselves to get this article out to criticize climate change action that Joe Biden hasn't even taken yet. I mean, at least he's talking about it. That would be a nice fundamental change.
But this is the party that already believes that critical race theory is in K through 12 education, which it's not.
Yeah, true.
This is the party that already believes the Green New Deal, pushed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and members of the squad, has already been enacted. This is a party that consistently, every time they want to form a narrative, they'll just say that the Democrats did this already and they didn't do. It kind of makes me think like, man, I wish I lived in that world where Joe Biden did all these awesome things, because that would be fantastic. But he hasn't. And they just make things up because they really do. I mean, they insult the intelligence of their listeners and viewers every single day.
Oh, totally.
They're not having honest conversations. They're having bulleted talking points and then getting outraged by things that didn't actually happen. It's like that. It's like that meme. There was a conservative woman who had, this meme has gone all around, where she had put a target on her forehead and said, "This is what it's like to be a conservative in America." And somebody had responded, "Well, the target is fake, and you put it there yourself." Perfect encapsulation.
Yeah, and they're constant, and to your point, they're constant victims of their own making. To even smooth it out even better, it's like, get off the cross, Jesus needs the wood. I don't know any other way to phrase it other than that.
Sure.
And it comes to what we're going to talk about next, which is the "Don't Say Gay" bill and Marco Rubio justifying it. Now, this is what gets me on. This is what gets me on the left, where they say, "Well, they're not that bad," or they're the same. I don't see any. Name me the Joe Manchin of the world that is justifying the "Don't Say Gay" bill in Florida. Find me the Democratic person doing that. There isn't one, so you won't. But find me that person. Jeff, can you?
Not off the top of my head, but I do know of a couple of anti-abortion Democrats. For example, you have Henry Cuellar, and Henry Cuellar is very, very incredibly right-wing and super corrupt for Democrats. The guy was raided by the FBI. I mean, you can't get worse than that.
Well, and then you primary the fuck out of these people. There's your answer.
Of course, Jessica Cisneros is doing. Had done, and by the way, they're going to a runoff election. So if you're in Texas and you want to see Henry Cuellar gone, I suggest checking her out, Jessica Cisneros.
No, awesome. And great point on that, because we need more. This is why I love having guests on, because they bring me knowledge that I don't have, and information that I don't have. But Rubio defends "Don't Say Gay" bill. Raising kids is a job of parents and family, not the schools.
Wouldn't it be nice, before you get into that, if these same Republicans that are like, it's the parents' job, okay, well, why don't you raise the wages and do paid parental leave so that they can actually stay home and be parents?
And not for nothing. And not for nothing, Jeff. This countermines their other point against trans kids, where they're saying we have to save trans kids from parents who are doing everything they can to get their kids medical treatment. We have to have government step in.
Big government.
Oh my God! The government step in and detach trans kids from families in Texas.
How cruel is that? I mean, how cruel is that, though? I mean, cruel and inhumane. Here you have, trans children who are already facing an incredibly difficult time in their lives, to have the Republican Party, big government, step in and say, "Oh, your parents are being nice to you. Your parents are being good to you and supporting you and giving you mental health care that you need and gender affirming care. No, we're going to rip you away from your parents." It's sick.
And for those who don't know, Right Wing Watch did the piece on this. It was only $600,000 to get Greg Abbott to make this change. They raised 675. These hate groups in the Trump cult raised $675,000 to get Greg Abbott to go after trans kids. And he wasn't even being primaried, but they said, "We're not going to give you this money unless you do this thing this way." And what did he go around? Spineless, not talking about his lack of being in a wheelchair, but
Right.
spineless Greg Abbott goes and does it this way. But back to Marco Rubio.
Culture wars.
Culture wars. And this is how the Democrats are different. If you're okay with this sort of thing, go by all means, let the Democratic Party lose elections and get Republicans in. If you're okay with this.
And honestly, what this is kind of a distraction for Republicans because they have no economic policy.
Yeah,
Now, if
exactly.
Democrats were to go left economic policy, they would win elections more
Yes.
without having to rely on culture war issues.
Yes.
And how just odious the Republicans are on those issues. But again, we see the influence of, you talked about $600,000 to Greg Abbott, and you can
Mhm.
also talk about the millions of dollars from corporate donors flowing to Democratic candidates.
Yeah,
and
no,
and and,
without-
and you know, from the healthcare industry, from the restaurant industry, and you can see why they're not fighting as hard for the increases of wages for average working
no,
folks.
you're right. You're right, Jeff. They're taking the easy way out of it. But at least to throw them a bone, at least they're on the right side of history. And
Sure.
they're not attacking already vulnerable kids who are a high rate of suicides and everything else to go with being trans. And oh my God, Jeff, I in a way, I wish I was more self-aware when I was younger, but I would be scared to death to be self-aware of knowing that my gender identity didn't fit right now because I would be attacked. Why would you want to do that to yourself? Why not just play it straight?
Well,
Because
if you're Dave Rubin, it's very, very lucrative.
yes, yeah, or
To
Yiannopoulos.
just to put, kind of tie that in a little bit. This morning,
Please.
I actually saw a tweet here, and I think it was yesterday, put out by Dave Rubin, where he was announcing surrogacy. So he's going to become a parent. Now, normally this would be, cause for celebration. But you look at the comments, you look at the replies to that tweet. Well, on the right, they're not in favor. They're not in favor of surrogacy. They're not in favor of gay dads raising a child, a family.
Well, I hope he's going to raise or adopt a Yemeni person or
Surrogacy.
So he yeah, right, you did say surrogacy. So he's not going to adopt, he's not going to save an immigrant a child from the Middle East or anything. Well, that's typical Republican selfishness. So he's kind of on the line of it. Hold on one sec. Stop the outbreak. Music. All right, that's our nosy liberal to say we have a break, but we're not going to take one. Jeff, can you stay with us for a little longer?
Sure.
Okay, great. And I'm gonna not play the 11 o'clock music. I'm gonna take that out of so we don't run into that again.
We're just plowing right through, are we?
Yeah, no, this is why I
tearing right
love
through
having
it.
you. This is why I had Ron Placone on the other day, and we did a whole extra half hour of a show, and it was just great because this is what I love to do. I love to have honest conversations about the issues, without shitty talking points to be followed.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get shitty talking points from me.
Yeah, and or make an argument like Rubio is making the "Don't Say Gay" bill, claiming that it only seeks to strengthen the role of parents in their children's education. Parents don't have time for this shit. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, to go back on some of the points that I've already touched on, if you really wanted to protect parents, you really want to, help parents, make it so that they don't have to work 2 to 3 American, uniquely American jobs in order to be able to afford, to pay the bills, and not to mention like childcare. Oh, we think parents should stay home and be parents. All right, well, increase the minimum wage, increase wages all across the board, pay people more, give them benefits, that kind of thing. Don't call them a moocher because the mom decides to stay home. That kind of thing. That's if you really wanted to help parents. But again, this is a culture war issue.
they encourage mooching on the right. If you ever listen to Dr. Laura and the other one, what's the hell's his name? Dave, Dave, help
I
me
think
out
I
here.
know your Dave Ramsey.
Dave Ramsey, thank you. I was thinking of Gordon Ramsay, and I wasn't sure if I was on the right track or not. But Dave Ramsey, they are.
What a difference that is, by the way.
I know, right?
I mean, what are you, an idiot sandwich? Well, in the case of
Oh,
Dave Ramsey, yes. Yes.
they make the case in this right wing social war that the woman should be staying home and by the way, eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and save money that way, and everything will be fine if you're just raising your kids. And by the way, Dr. Laura didn't follow her own advice raising her militant
Of course.
batshit crazy kid. Just saying, she didn't go with her own advice.
Oh,
But they-
inflation's up 7.9%, this quarter. It's more expensive for food. It's more expensive for gas. This is yet saying that, oh man, you should just stay home and eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches is basically the argument of saying you would own a house by now, even though housing prices are absolutely insane. I don't know the rate of inflation on that since the 1960s, but it's hell of a lot. While the minimum wage has stayed at $7.25 an hour. And it's the equivalent of telling millennials, hey, if you wanted a home, well, you should have just not ate avocado toast and not bought so many lattes, you fucking moocher. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should swear on this show.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. We dropped the F-bombs here on our other Woke Talk Radio because we're going into syndicate. By the way, Jeff, we're going into syndication with
That's cool.
radio.
Oh, congratulations.
We're working on that deal to be had for FY Nation shows. But that being said, that you can't swear, but this show you can.
Of course. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm familiar. I've been on a few shows here and there where the swears are not allowed.
Yes.
Most recently on Damage Report, I think a couple weeks ago. So.
Oh. No, yeah, that can make things awkward if you
No, I'm actually pretty good at controlling myself.
I am not. I am not one. I like to drop the F-bomb every once in a while, and I find myself that is very hard, especially with these fucknuts in office.
Yeah, I mean everybody considers me the more calm, reasoned one. So I think it's really interesting when people see that that's not always the case.
No, and a good rant here and there is I haven't gone full shrill on my audience in the morning yet.
Not
because
yet,
it's
no.
the morning. No, not yet. Because it's the morning, and I don't want to do that to my audience.
No.
But because it that would be terrifying. Full shrill. So I kind of tamper it down a little bit. But like with these, the right wing, man, I've also come to a point where, and Tara Devlin and Robin Kincaid have helped me with this, where there's no reasoning with them. Like you can't have that conversation that I could in the 90s about changing somebody to the Democratic side. They're too entrenched into their talking points, and we have a big mountain to climb. And I'd like your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's only been probably a good 30, 40 years of propaganda. And I think you're quite familiar with the now deceased Rush Limbaugh. May he rest in piss.
Thank God
Where,
he's dead.
where he, is it not kosher to dance on somebody's grave?
Dance all you want.
Okay. I'm just saying. Normally, I don't do that, but I'll do a mariachi on it.
I'll dance right with you. Without rhythm, I might add.
Well, of course, we're both white, so we have no rhythm.
Yes.
But anyway, Rush Limbaugh, this whole thing. I mean, the hate radio, right wing hate radio, creating a completely alternate reality, 100% demonizing your opponents, not just making it about we have a difference of opinion on issues. Like, oh, I think the tax rates should be a little bit lower. Well, I think they should be a little bit higher for the rich. We have a slight gentleman's disagreement. By the way, that's the world Congress still lives in, or at least did until Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and their ilk. That's really where it changed, though. Really where it changed, where we have a system where you have both sides that can't talk to each other because you have people saying, no, you don't understand. The Democrats are literally Satanists. They're not only Satanists, but they are communists, and they're eating babies and drinking their adrenochrome and all the QAnon stuff, which has filtered in to major talking points in the Republican Party. They are the party of the conspiracy theories and the conspiracy theorists. And they go on at length about how evil and satanic and how they want to kill and eat your babibies.
It's like you watched
and their own babies.
It's like you watched yesterday's show. We did a whole story from Talking Points Memo about how the conspiracy QAnon theories bleed in from the QAnon to Fox News, and then
Tucker Carlson mainly.
And then, well, no, Jeanine Pirro and
sure.
the 5. And by the way, these are all top-rated shows, Jeff. You know, they are top-rated, powerful vehicles for right-wing talking points, and it seeps in. So that's why they're going to your point. There is no difference anymore, and you have to call it out for what it is: a hashtag GOP cult or a hashtag Trump cult. I mean, it's really that simple at this point.
And again, it's all about these talking points because they have no real economic agenda. And so you push the culture war, you push that the other side is 100% evil, so that even if you don't agree, even if you think like, oh, well, you know, I really would like wages to go up a little bit for me because I'm working my ass off, but I can't vote for Democrats because they literally want to kill and eat my child after they rape them. So, you know, I don't want to do that. Or, you know, going back to their trans panic. Oh, I don't want to support these people that want big hairy men to put on dresses and go into the girls' bathroom, which, by the way, doesn't happen.
Well,
and there's nothing stopping from a big, nothing stopping a big hairy man.
There was one case that they can point to.
Oh my God, one case out of any. And by the way, out of all the people that exist, one case that they can point at. It's the Justice Smollett thing.
No, exactly.
Racism doesn't exist because Justice Smollett had to make something up, had to make up racism, despite like it's the SpongeBob meme. I don't know if you're familiar with that, where you have like, oh, racism doesn't exist, blah blah blah, and he's just saying like, what is that over there? What's that over there? It's over here, and then opens the window, and right there, it's everywhere. And you can easily point to it. Of course it exists. All these things exist. And it's the same. Notice how they like to cherry pick one or two instances of things happening. Voter fraud is another good example, right? And most of that voter fraud tends to be people like Crystal Mason, right? I believe that's her name.
Okay.
Where she was on like a parole and thought that she could register to vote, did so, and it turned out that she was not able to, and therefore registering and voting was considered voter fraud, and I think she got 5 years in prison, sentenced to 5 years for that.
What would she get? 95 years in prison?
Yeah, but then again, you compare to other other sources of or instances of alleged voter fraud, right? Where you have 4 people arrested in the Villages down in Florida, a very conservative community, for impersonating their mother. Requesting ballots for her, trying to vote twice. One person went and voted and then put on a little costume and then went and tried to vote again. And so, I mean, this is what you have. Every one of those situations, by the way, the person got no jail time, just probation.
Well, maybe because they were white. Could that have anything to do with it?
It might have something to do with it, yes.
And by the way, these people with the voter fraud on the Democratic side who make the accidents happen, the accidental voter fraud, so-called, usually, and I wanted to point this out for our audience, usually get more claims of this than time in prison for January 6 rioters. Like, how disparaging is it when these rioters, these terrorists, are not being sent to where I would send them, Gitmo. Well, I mean, what is it there for but to send terrorists to? But are getting like 2 weeks in jail. Like, you talked about Jesse Smollett. Jesse Smollett did a bad thing. He
Yes.
still believes that he didn't do a bad thing. Ignore that part for a minute. Let's go with Jesse Smollett did a bad thing. He got 150 days in jail plus death threats to his life. That is still marginally more than what the average January 6th person gets,
Right.
whether it's like 2 weeks and then probation, and then they're the victim. Well, my husband left me, or my job fired me. Oh, poor fucking you.
Most
Right.
of the people that were in January 6th were actually fairly well off.
Yes.
Middle class,
Yeah.
upper class. Jenna Ryan, or I believe it was
Yes.
Jenna
Yeah,
Ryan.
thank you.
She was
Jenna
the one who flew her private jet
Yes.
to go January 6th, got 60 days in jail. And that's,
Yeah.
by the way, the person who said, they're not going to put me in jail
Yeah.
because I'm white and successful and I'm blonde and I'm pretty. Oops.
Yeah.
But you're right. No, the overall point is what you have is sentencing disparities between black people, white people. And of course, obviously, black people tend to get disproportionately punished more hard than white counterparts for similar crimes, or even, lesser crimes than others. Because remember, the ones in the villages and the other instances of in-person voter fraud by Republicans, or voting twice for Trump, or the guy who what is it? I forget his name, but he went out and for like
You
a
remember
year.
them better than I do, by the way. There are so many of them. I can't keep
There
track.
are. This man went out and claimed that he, at least for like a year, that somebody had stolen his wife's ballot and voted and did voter fraud with it. He went on conservative media. It was all over. He was all over right-wing media saying this, saying, I can't believe somebody would steal my dead wife's vote. Oh my God, how dare they honor and they sully her memory. And then it turns out he sullied her memory by voting in her name for Donald Trump. Now, that said, would she have probably voted for Trump when she was alive? Maybe. But she's dead, meaning she can't vote, meaning that you just committed voter fraud, son.
Yeah.
Probation.
And by the way, the other difference between the Democratic Party and the Republicans is the Democratic Party, for all they're trying, for all they're worth, is not really good at the fever pitch bullshit narrative. Like, I remember during the Hillary thing when they were trying to get Bernie supporters and go after that, and y'all, they just suck at it. They try really hard, but they just, like, the Republicans are fucking talking point experts, and are playing chess, and the Democratic side is just playing checkers and flip the board over and wonder why they can't continue the game. Because, oh my God, we believe in things like critical thinking, and we don't follow that bullshit narrative just to all step in line together. And I think that's a big difference that we need to point out, because we're more rational than the average person.
I think human beings in general are fairly irrational. But I tend to try to follow where the facts take me. And so there's a difference between organic discussion and thought versus manufactured. I think a lot what you find on the right wing is very manufactured and packaged, and spread by disinformation merchants who are literally paid to do this. And so what you have is a very inorganic movement of people who are just very propagandized and not exposed to factual information. And when they are, Dunning-Kruger kicks in and says, no, I'm not at all going to believe in that because my my trusted source, I trust my source, an authority thing. I trust them and they say that this is wrong. And so obviously these cannot be facts. This is fake news. And we've seen that going back to that. I really think the biggest problem in this country is media. And that's where we have such divisions that we didn't have before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's not left versus right media. I mean, if you want to go to fynation.com or Free Speech TV, then you have left versus right media and an honest discussion, or TYT, or even the Jimmy Dore show. Although, yeah.
I'm just not going to say anything about that.
Then you have a left versus right discussion. But the folks on the corporate side is where I'm going with this, are not, they're more corporate leaning. There's no left versus right with them. It's a corporatocracy that we have to dismantle.
Well, I think inherently the corporate media aligns with the business right wing. Yes. And the reason that I say that is because they generally want the same things. Tax cuts for the rich, less regulation, more money flowing to the business owners. And so when you look at where the corporate media is, I mean, look, or why they take the positions that they take, I mean, it's very, very obvious. They're a business. They're a for-profit entity. Yeah. When you're a for-profit entity, generally, you want to do the things that will, I mean, think about it this way. They have fiduciary responsibility to maximize profit for who?
Yeah, the rich.
The shareholders.
Yeah.
The stakeholders in the company, the executives.
But the shareholder, I mean, to low information voter, narrow it down, the rich are the shareholders. You're not.
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to be wealthy.
I don't see any homeless people having shares of AT&T walking around.
That's
you
true.
know what I mean?
That's true. Poor people have the worst lobbyists, by the way.
I know their lobbyists are shit, man.
They just don't have any representation.
They need to work on that.
Yeah, they need to get on that.
I just
stop buying avocado toast.
And they're fucking messaging. What's wrong with that? Explain that to me.
Who's messaging?
The poor people's. It sucks.
The poor people's. Yes. Yeah, I know. Healthcare, please.
Yeah. Fuck that.
Yeah, we all love healthcare. But yeah, the corporate media, corporate politicians, healthcare lobbyists, pharma, all of them stand in the way of anything good for this country. And that media and the spreading of the message, and that's the biggest problem.
And it's also and another one too. It's also big tech too, where we now have them going into it. And I had Tom Hartman on, and he just wrote a book about big tech and fighting government infiltration of our lives and fighting corporate infiltration through social media and stuff like that. And he was saying they're both equally abhorrent in how they do it. And he said something that astonished me. He said that one of the better writers on the right about attacking big tech was Josh Hawley. And I nearly fell out of my chair, because here we have a guy who is so right-wing, Trump and Z, in fact, and he's one of the better people when it comes to dealing with big tech. I mean, oh my God, the clock strikes right.
I mean, it's not even like corporate infiltration. I mean, into social media, they're owned by corporations. What you don't have is, a system where it's not necessarily government control, because you don't want state media. You don't want like something like RT, for America, right? But at the same time, you do want something that is not for profit. That is a social media company.
You could do something like BBC in America.
Sure.
which would work really well, where the government pays for it with license fees and everybody puts their stake in.
Sure.
By the way, Jim says capitalism has no social mandate,
That's
which
true.
is very true. And it's sad. But back to the point with the BBC, we could do something like that here. It doesn't have to be, because the right wing do what you just did, Jeff. They always say, no, we can't have RT in America.
Right.
Well, no, we don't have to. We could have something like PBS,
Yeah.
but actually have it be funded, you know, and actually do a public service, and make it a news organization,
Right. And that's what I'm talking about. Like having something like that to supplant or at least challenge the corporate social media, which again, I'm on YouTube, so we have this issue with large legacy old media companies getting preferential treatment because of their platforms and lobbying power, and also this so-called brand safety, right? And so we have the situation where a lot of independent channels are soft blocked in a way, or are shadow banned, whatever you want to call it, don't show up on search results or don't show up in recommendations, at least not nearly as often as they used to. And instead, they have people that are generally pointed towards legacy media, which is CNN, MSNBC, and yes, Fox News. Which, if you're saying like, oh, Fox News is very dangerous for democracy, as some have taken to, well, okay, but yet here they are, a preferred authoritarian, or I'm sorry, not authoritarian, but that also applies, authoritative source that people are directed to in search results. And so, I mean, that's a real problem with media. And you could get into a bigger conversation about media consolidation, how we're getting, our news and opinion generally, at least the ones that are disseminated very widely or the widest, from 5 or 6 companies, and then Joe Rogan, which is also not good.
Well, my very, very best friend and I got into it. Steven, you've met Steven before when I lived in Michigan.
Sure.
He and I got into it over Bill Maher today or yesterday, because I can't fucking stand Bill Maher. I think he's basically a right winger, in drag as a Democrat. He's trying to be the independent voice, but then he'll go off and say something about trans kids and trans issues where it's just so radically right wing that it's like, no, there it is, I see it, and he's so anti religion where there's no, he's radicalized basically. And I'm sorry that, to me, then giving him a voice in the sphere of things is not a good thing, and not a platform that I would choose to be on, because frankly, he's dangerous. Because he allows. Go ahead.
No. Finish your point.
Because he allows so many right wingers on, and instead of scorn at this point, he's cheering them on. And it's no longer, well, I disagree with you. It's like, oh, I'm turning the page with you. And he's even said in interviews, well, the Democratic Party has left me, I haven't left it, which is a fucking excuse that they always, brain dead people. Well, the Democratic Party has always been the same. You've left it, my friend. You just opened yourself up to being a bigot, and you get a pass from the Republicans. So there you are.
I think on the issue of Maher, he's always been a lot more of a so-called libertarian. So basically, I'm wealthy, don't tax me, bro. Right? Let me smoke weed and let me hate religion. Which, by the way, I'm not a fan of religion either. So just getting that out there.
No,
but what I've seen from a lot of, unfortunately, I don't know if you remember like the New Atheist back in like 2015,
Mhm.
2016, even before then, where you had a lot of people that were, brand new, I guess, newly minted anti-theists, right?
Yes.
And they were incredibly, I guess, at least on the internet, they were very, very loud voice, right?
Mhm.
And of course, a lot of the stuff you're like, oh yeah, your religion kind of shitty, right? And then came the nuclear takes, and then came basically the alignment with members of the far right, which is interesting because of the religiosity inside of the Republican
Mhm.
Party. But you have a lot of these new atheists, and what they would do is that they would perpetuate the culture wars. This time being like, oh, we're against the feminists, we're against the anti, or we're the anti SJWs, so we hate the
Yes.
social
Yep.
justice warriors, and but
The
we also
people
hate
that
religion too. But
the
we really hate the
sorry to
Democrats and
interrupt.
the gay and
The
the woke.
people who hate on Star Trek right now because Star Trek is so
Yeah,
messagey.
and,
They
and
they
that's
they do that.
that's the reactionary.
Yeah.
That's what they've become essentially, and you see all of this reactionary content to anything that's culture war related.
Yes.
And so even
Yes.
though you might agree with them on some issues of religion, and even some like populist economic issues, they're
Mhm.
so entrenched in the anti SJW narrative, the culture wars, the fighting against the feminists, and now the trans kids,
Yeah.
spreading all sorts of lies like, oh, the parents that are treating trans kids good are just grooming or something like that, or
Yeah. Yeah.
like, the the woke mob are trying to feminize your child. They're trying to turn them into women, but they're not actually women, or something like that, and they're
Yeah.
gonna turn the fucking frogs gay. Why the frogs gay? Yeah, and all this stuff, and it's just like, I mean, there's a whole thing about getting back to Florida for a second. The narrative, like they're doing.
Hold on, Jeff. I'm with Jeff Waldorf.
Okay.
That was our last break. Just stay with me for the hour, if you will. All right, cool. I'm with Jeff Waldorf from Around the Nation. He has invaded our show, which is awesome. And he is bringing some great commentary with us. And his show can be seen on the YouTube, the Twitch, the Facebook at 4 p.m. We used to be able to stream him, but we had tech issues and weren't able to stream him on FYNation.com anymore. But he is a friend of the show and was making a great point. Go for it, Jeff.
All right, so I was talking about some of the narratives against trans, trans children, trans medical issues that the right wing and even the anti SJWs are bringing up consistently, and that is, of course, surgery. Right? Well, nobody under 18 is getting surgery, so there's no gender affirming surgeries that are happening.
Mhm.
Then they talk about how, like, oh, well, what about puberty blockers, right? Those things are, again, temporary. They can be stopped at any time. All they're
Yep.
doing is delay the onset so that people can make their decision whether or not they want to go further when they're an adult, when they're of legal age. And of course, hormones, which can, again, also be stopped. So none of this is forced feminizing children or doing surgery on children, which, again, we're all against doing surgeries like that on children. That's why there's an age limit on that.
Mhm.
But those are the issues that they're using. Those are the issues that they're using to divide people. And really what they're talking about a lot on not only what was left of the new atheist right,
Yeah.
but also, with your Marco Rubios, with your,
Mhm.
Greg Abbott's and Ron DeSantis's, and the people that are pushing all of these anti-trans. And by the way, and too, there's also been a rash of anti-trans bills in different states. Idaho, for example, constantly trying to ban transgender athletes from
Yep.
competing in schools. I didn't realize that was like, oh, a competitive advantage they've got it. First of all, it's no real evidence that backs up this advantage would be insurmountable by any cisgendered woman, for example, right, against a transgender athlete, because some transgender athletes win, sometimes they lose, just like in
Yeah,
any
we
sports,
saw
just
this
like
in the
any
Olympics.
competition. Yeah.
This happened in the Olympics where the transgender
hmm
athlete lost, and
hmm
the plays and everybody was cheering that they lost, but it destroyed their narrative, and
It did.
somehow their narrative still works because they're louder.
Right. And by the way, the fact that the whole idea that counts, like, as like such an important thing that we have to ban trans children, even in places where they have never had that issue, they will preemptively ban it, like the critical
Yeah,
race theory thing.
yeah,
Um, it's ridiculous. I mean, oh, so you've never had that problem before of trans girls decimating every other woman, every other cis woman in your sports, but you're still going to ban it anyway.
yep,
No, it's all culture war stuff.
yeah, and it's harmful, and they don't care because they feel like they have a righteous win because they're doing it for the righteous reason.
And they're actively doing harm, so they know that it's
Yes,
harmful, and the harm and the cruelty is the point.
yes, yes. And Jeff Waldorf is with us from around the nation. He is a good friend of the network, a good friend of mine. We have been through it together, and I'm finally got enough courage to do a YouTube show, Jeff. So this is weird for me.
No,
But
it's fine. You get used to
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's intrusive as fuck, but it is what it is. I love the comments, and we have a chat room moderator for our chat, which is awesome on the YouTube. So
Gotta have one of those.
yeah, especially to kick out the Russian bots because oh my god, um, I sometimes I get more Russian bots than the actual viewers, which is disheartening.
Interesting. That's very
Yes.
interesting, actually.
Yeah, it makes me crazy. I think it's because of how I use Tucker Carlson as a target word in a lot of my stuff. So
hmm
they
hmm
gotta own that narrative
hmm
because Tucker is so wonderful to Vlad. Um, I'm trying to figure out where I want to go with the stories. I just want to ask you a question. I guess
Sure.
with what we're talking about in the narrative wars. Um, what do we do with our own left flank when they are just not quite, and I think you know who I'm speaking of,
Sure.
but when we have to fight a narrative on both sides, we have to fight the left narrative, um, and then we have to fight the right equally hard. What do we do to try and find some middle ground, or is that something that we should just fight on? Because I think we're stronger if we just fight the right. But it seems like that end of the spectrum is okay with some of the rightiest right wingers over Democrats, and that's scary to me.
Well, again, I mean, so what? I mean, what do we do with it? That's the question, right?
Mm,
I mean, I always tend to focus on the narratives. I
mm,
talk about the issues. I talk about the narratives that are coming out, and I push back against those. I'm not
mhm.
necessarily pushing back against people. I'm pushing back against ideas. And so, if you're somebody who has that idea and you think you're on the left, I'm going to push back on that idea because I don't really care where you think you are. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't necessarily matter as much to me. If you have a bad idea, you have a bad idea. And I'm going to push back
Yeah, it's
against
like
that
I was
idea.
posting. No, and take the YouTube angle out of it. I was posting on YouTube on Facebook for our YouTube channel to promote it,
hmm
and I'm in a
hmm
lot of Bernie groups because I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Right.
And one of the tags that I put was "Fight Trump, support FYNation.com." And one
Right.
of the commenters were like, "You still believe that he's a bad guy?" And I couldn't I nearly fell out of my chair. It's like we don't have enough evidence to prove that Donald J. Trump, take the Republican out of it, is the worst president in modern times. I mean, there's not an what am I missing that these people are just willing to put Donald Trump because they don't like Joe Biden's policies, because Joe Biden, the excuse right now seems to excuse du jour, well, they're not pushing for Medicare for all hard enough. Well, that was never going to happen with Joe Biden.
I mean, expecting Joe Biden to do that. I mean, you might as well expect to sprout wings and fly to the moon. Like, would it be nice to have a president that would promise to push that? Yes. Did Joe Biden promise to push that? No. Curb your expectations, right?
Yeah.
Understand that this is my framing is coming from the fact that we lost the primary. As Bernie Sanders supporters, we lost the primary. This is the world that we live in. I'm not going to relitigate that. Okay.
Yeah.
That ship's over. That is sailed for now. Now, if you want to go through and you want to, start organizing for primary challenges for the next time, sure. Or if you're even tired of electoral politics, you want to check out of that, fine. Build a labor movement. Try to unionize your workplace. I think labor power is much more powerful and much more of a vehicle for change than electoralism. That doesn't mean you check out of electoralism. I'm not a fan of or proponent of doing that, like some on the left have decided to do. I'm not ready to check out because I think the more allies that we have in Congress, or at least more friendlier faces that we have in Congress, the better. But really, you have to have that vehicle to push, and that vehicle is labor. We're not always on the side 100% of labor because of things like, for example, you had labor unions pushing Keystone XL. But on the majority of issues,
just to remind people, police unions are not always on the right side of the issue either. Yet we still support the right for cops to unionize 1,000%.
Let me just say that I think I actually do think the police unions themselves are kind of terrible to push back on that a little bit, because what you have is you also have qualified immunity. And really what the police union does is not so much look out for police officers or workers, is they're generally there to try to prevent any sort of accountability when it comes to holding police accountable. So I think they're a different animal there.
And you can
than other unions.
And you can do that pushback. That's a valid pushback point to have. I'm totally not discounting that.
Sure.
But if police unions did more than just that, they would be better course.
I think what they need is a lot of change. There needs to be a change in how policing is done in this country. And I think eliminating, or removing qualified immunity to be able to hold them accountable. And also, look, I know it's not going to be a popular narrative. It certainly isn't for the Democratic Party or anywhere else. But I'm still a proponent of defund the police. I'm still a proponent of taking some of the funding that we give to the police departments and putting that into social services instead, and then reducing the workload of police to actually solving crimes instead of going and investigating domestic disturbances or dealing with people with mental health care.
I agree with you on your line of thinking for defund the police.
But it is a terrible message, though.
But I think that just to say I'm in favor of defund the police, you then have to qualify it, and people, their eyes glaze over in the qualification of what you're trying to say and what you're trying to do, and they're like, yeah, no, I'm not for that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, that it's not. I'm very well aware that it's not a popular message, and that it's not a good framework, because this is easily attacked, especially when you have a lot of people that are like, well, I don't want to get rid of police. They keep us safe. They protect us. No, we're just reimagining police to where they have one job and one job only, instead of multiple different things that they do.
I think the slogan should be what you just said, Jeff. Reimagine the police. Because I think that you can sell a lot better, or retcon the police. Because people understand that and get, oh, okay, you want to make changes for the better. That I can agree with. Defunding, no, but retconning, yeah, I'm cool with that. Speaking of, Jim says, not progressive enough for me, of course, referring to Biden. And he said earlier, Biden has been more progressive than I thought he would be. And he has. Biden has been legitimately more progressive, but he still kept his promise that you made clear, where he is basically, yeah, no systemic things will change.
Yeah, let me just by the way, kind of add on to that. Biden, I think, has been excellent in foreign policy. That's the one.
Mhm.
That's the I think the best praise that I can give him is that he's been excellent on foreign policy. We're not involved in a war in over Ukraine, even
Mhm.
though I know and I completely understand the idea of why Vladimir Zelensky is
Mhm.
asking for a no-fly zone over Ukraine. I completely understand, and I completely understand that why there's a lot of people being pulled on this that are like, why don't we just do no-fly zone? But they don't realize that it's going to lead to war. I mean, not just going to lead to the second U.S. fighter plane fires on a Russian jet, we're at war. And
Yeah.
so, and that, of course, the catalyst for World War III. And so Biden has had to walk a very fine line, giving support to Ukraine to fight against the invasion by the Russians, but also to keep us out of getting into a direct conflict. I'll
Mhm.
also go and say that I think pulling out of Afghanistan was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think it was, you know, uh, I think it was a good decision. And so also strengthening ties with European allies over the world, that's been a very positive development.
Yeah.
None of that stuff, by the way, was done under Trump. In fact, a lot of our foreign stuff was actually weakened under Donald Trump and some of the
Mhm.
more isolationist policies. An isolationist, doesn't necessarily mean anti-war, because what you had under Trump was more civilian deaths through
Yep.
drone strikes, more militarism,
Yep.
giving the military budget even more of an increase
Yep.
as it continues to increase, and then you know just generally unfavorable outcomes and the destroying of treaties,
Yeah.
like the Iran deal, for
Thank
example.
you. Oh my God,
uh
thank you. I was about to interrupt you, and
yeah.
you brought that up because we shouldn't be renegotiating a deal that we already negotiated.
Hmm.
But Donald Trump made it harder for us with Iran, and he actually gave them a path to nuclearization
Right.
by dropping out of the deal.
Right. Exactly. And of course, it also fueled their hardliners
Mhm.
into saying, well, you can't really trust American foreign policy because the deals that we make. Because what if the next president comes in and rips it up?
Yeah.
We
Yep.
have that happening, and so, I mean, that's uh, again, to give Joe Biden marks on foreign policy. I think he's done an excellent job on the domestic front, not being able to get his most of his policy passed. That's really the big issue that we have.
But to blame Joe Biden is an easy way out, right? You
Not
had people.
necessarily, because there are things that Joe Biden could do. I understand that there is, the point you're going to bring up is that he does have to deal with a Congress, and a Congress that is very split, 50-50 Senate. Um, and you have to deal with, of course, people like Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. I
Thank you.
do
Yeah.
think, though, that there is a way to browbeat Joe
Oh,
Manchin
I agree with you. I agree.
into doing that, and that involves using the bully pulpit. But
Yeah.
aside from the issues with Congress, there are things that he could do unilaterally. For an example, Joe Biden has the ability to cancel student loan debt
Yeah, absolutely.
today. Today,
Yeah.
there is a memo that the administration is hiding, and it basically shows the powers that they have. And if they have the power, by the way, to delay, which they've had a couple of times,
Mhm.
then they absolutely have the power to cancel not just
Yeah.
10,000, but 50,000, or just the entirety of it. And so
Yes.
those are the things that we're saying. Understand that, like, there is bad faith criticism of Joe Biden on these fronts, and then there's reasonable criticism. Obviously, the actors that are going to do the bad faith, that no matter what,
Yes.
Joe Biden is the worst and terrible. And then there's, of course, the reasonable criticism where it's like, hey, he could do this if he wants to. He's got the ability to do it. Another thing that he could have done during the emergency for COVID was actually enact a socialist type of healthcare,
Yes.
using that power of executive orders during that emergency. He did not do that because of the aforementioned promise to donors who make up a large constituency in the Democratic Party as far as donations and money goes.
But
And so
I
there's that.
I will say though, comparatively, Joe Biden to Donald Trump, and I know if you look at the polls, I'm in the minority here, but I will say that Joe Biden, as president of the United States, is a far better president, and what they're trying to do to him, to Jimmy Carter him, is just striking, when the alternative is an orange menace madman that will just screw everything up. But don't worry, Jeff, he's going to give tax cuts where they're necessary.
I mean, the comparison between Trump and Biden is apples to dog shit.
Yes.
I mean that's what you have. I mean, really, if you're going to do any comparison to Biden, really, you would do a comparison between him and either past presidents or even past congressmen, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, a more fair apt comparison would be, I don't know, comparing Joe Biden
Joe
to
Manchin.
no FDR,
Oh, okay. All right.
in which, of course, FDR comes out far stronger, even the black marks on his record,
Yeah.
and so you can do that when it comes to issues of liberalism or progressivism. Start comparing Joe Biden to other people, and I guess you could compare him to Joe Manchin. There are, of course, some differences, but generally they tend to follow the same pathos of being pro business, pro corporate on their domestic policy and not getting things done. Jim brings up a great point, by the way. Start charging Manchin's daughter for farmer price gouging.
Let's put that post
There's that.
up.
There is that whole Mylan Pharmaceuticals thing that you rightly point up that I think is an excellent point. I mean, there is the bully pulpit, and I've said before, politics is fucking dirty. If you're not willing to play dirty to get the things that you want, and that's going back to the FDR comparison. How do you think he got Social Security passed?
Yeah. He used to bully pulpit.
Not just that, threats, intimidation behind the scenes, going after and threatening people's careers, political careers. It's what was the president that said? Was it Roosevelt that said? I think Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly, but carry a big stick.
Yep. LBJ was famous for that, for going after
Exactly.
I mean,
and that's how he passed Medicare.
Yeah.
And so if you're going to do something, if you want something done, you're going to have to play the backroom politics, and you're going to have to play real tough. And I don't think Joe Biden is a person that wants to play tough like that.
No,
I don't think he can do that.
That is the biggest problem with Joe Biden. Joe Biden is not a tough guy. He's more of a go along, get along creature of politics, and he's willing to make the deal, and he's not willing to stick his neck out in his political career to make, oh my God, fundamental change. But that does not make him the same as Marco Rubio per se, or you name the Republican wannabe running for president against Trump, DeSantis. It does not make them the same. DeSantis is a fucking bully, out and out bully.
True.
You could never call our friend Joe Biden a bully. It's just not in his nature. He's
We
too
wish
much of a
you-
soft, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, too invested in collegiality. Absolutely.
Yes.
It's comedy, getting along, not rocking the boat in the ways that we need it when we need it. And so I think COVID would have been an excellent time to rock that boat, to make those changes, but you have to want to do that. And we
It
just
just
have a
says
president that doesn't want to do that. And the whole purpose was, let's get back to normal.
mhm.
Except that normal is the reason that we got Trump in the first place. Normal
Jim says
wasn't
I
working.
agree. To invest it in collegiality, which could be a good thing if you have a stable economy, if you have a stable politic, if you have a stable foreign policy. But when you have all these disasters and disasters and disasters, and not even made by him disasters, but you have the
Sure.
right blaming you for all of them, it's time for you to take out the baseball bat and start hitting home runs.
Right.
And I'm sorry that's not Joe Biden, but that does not again make him the same as a Republican president like Donald Trump. It doesn't.
I think on the world stage, when you look at where people are in the Overton window,
Mhm.
okay, when you look at the Overton window, most of our political system is conservative.
Mhm.
Democrats, the Democratic Party is center to center right. That's what they're at. The Republican Party is off the cliff, insane
Yeah.
right wing. And so they're basically the pro-fascist party. We don't
Yeah.
have a left represented in our politics. I mean, even your, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, they're center left.
Yes.
They're center left with a mix of a little bit of populism. And
Yes.
so what you have, I mean, if you compare us to Europe and where their political parties are,
Mhm.
and so to go to Joe Biden is your center right,
Yes.
which where the Republicans should be, but they're not.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I guess if you're making that comparison, or at least you're saying he's like, oh, more Republican, you're looking at it from that framing as opposed to in the American framing. So I think I give people a pass on that if they take it from that
Yeah, but
point of
but
view.
you're doing one thing wrong that these people on the far left don't do is
They're
just as
not even far left,
are
honestly.
they don't allow for nuance of it because that nuance will interfere with their narrative of Joe Biden equally as bad as Donald Trump to be spelled out and to be pointed at. And okay, yeah, you can find ways in governing where they're equally bad. You could do that if you want to cherry pick shit. We could be here all day, but but it comes down to it. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party has fundamental differences,
They
and
do. What I'm trying to say, what I was trying to point out, just to give some clarity,
sure,
is that remember when I say Republican, I say based on economic policy
yes,
positions and not general odiousness,
yes,
right? And so I'm not talking about when I make the comparison like he would be a Republican in these circumstances.
yes,
I'm not making the comparison to the insane Trump cult,
yeah.
right? I'm
Uh,
talking your business conservative, right? Your I like tax cuts and deregulation a bit,
you're Mike
but
Bloomberg.
we're not insane.
You're Mike Bloomberg of the world, basically, is what you're saying.
Well, me, no. But a Joe Biden is I think, a little bit more liberal than that.
Okay,
But generally, to this, to the general establishment, very, very
yeah,
friendly. Which the establishment, of course, is very, very business oriented, very
yeah,
pro corporate, pro business, etc. And we're not talking about again the insane far right. Now going back, and I don't like the framing of what you were saying earlier,
oh
like, oh,
please,
the far left, right? No,
okay,
there are people that call themselves left, but are actually just reactionary. Being anti-establishment is not inherently left.
okay,
Okay, and that's the thing. A lot of the people that I see that call themselves left and anti-establishment are more reactionary. I'm
okay,
less
I can get
interested.
that.
Yeah, I'm less interested in, you just being anti-establishment because you find people from all stripes, Democrats, liberals, progressives, centrists, people who are on the right wing that are all anti-establishment because of what's going on clearly isn't working for a large majority of people.
Yep.
What matters to me and what makes you left is what you want to build after the establishment has been taken over or removed or supplanted or voted out or however, whatever the mode of change. And of course that matters too, because I'm in favor of like a peaceful, take over the Democratic Party. Or maybe even the changing of the type of elections that we have in this country to allow for more of a third party kind of option in the future, which I think would be beneficial as well. What do you want to build afterwards? Do you want to build something that's pro worker, and that includes workers of color, trans, LGBTQ, and whatever else, whatever minorities that you want, all the other minorities, indigenous, working class people of every stripe and color and creed and religion, all of that. Are you going to advance policies that help them? Are you going to advance policies that make the world and this country a better place? That's what I'm invested in. And if you're somebody who's anti-establishment and then wants to create something that's different than that, be it libertarian, right-wing, feudal, corporate fiefdom, then no, I'm not at all interested in that. Or something that's a theocracy in nature, or even if you don't even have a plan of what you want to build afterwards, then I'm not really interested, and I don't really consider you to be on the left, even if you don't like the current establishment, because again, a lot of us don't like the current establishment.
No, yeah. And you're absolutely right on that. And I like that familiarization of reactionary on the left as opposed to actually being far left, because that is a little bit more nuanced. And
there are people on the far left though that are tankies. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No,
but
we only have about a minute and a half left, but explain to the audience what you're talking about for those who might not be in the loop, like I'm not.
People that are basically Marxist-Leninists, that are authoritarian, want to recreate the Soviet Union and China in the United States, and for them, China can do no wrong.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that.
Yeah, I'm not in favor of that either.
Yeah, no, neither am I. That's crazy talk. Tankies. I like that. I had not heard that before. So we're joined today on this St. Patrick's Day with the amazing, the fundamentally wonderful Jeff Waldorf from around the nation.
Oh, please keep stroking that ego.
And you're welcome. I like to stroke things. But
I've heard.
The very gracious with his time, and that is the best thing you can give this show is your time, Jeff Waldorf. And I really had a great talk, and Jeff did most of the talking, so it made this show go by really quick.
I have a
and it was
tendency to
a
do
great
that.
conversation. So thank you for making my job easy today. Because you brought it to, as you always do, brought it to the table in our month of interviews. Tomorrow we will have Rory Boyd with us for his regular Friday gig with us on the show at 10:30, and then next week we have Desi Doyen, Matt McNeil, and we will have Brad Friedman as well. So big.
Yeah, one thing about Brad. I remember bringing him on the show before, and he did the exact same thing that I did. You give him a question and you let him go.
Yeah,
and he's on it.
You just don't have to. You don't have to do any work.
You don't have to do much.
I get to feel like an executive producer again, and it's wonderful. Jeff, real quick, how can people find you on the Twitterverse and the YouTube when they're not deplatforming you?
Oh well. You can see it in my lower third. You can follow me on my Twitter at Jeff's Politics. My YouTube channel, please give us a subscribe at Waldorf Nation on YouTube. Twitch, Jeff_Waldorf. Again, we multi-stream We're streaming everywhere. We don't cross the streams though, but we do stream everywhere.
Never want to cross the screen.
Never want to cross the streams. And of course, Facebook at Jeff Waldorf Show. Please go and follow us on the respective platforms, whichever you're on.
Yes.
Thank
and
you.
Jeff, again, stay with me a little bit after if you don't mind. But Jeff, thank you for being a loyal friend to FYNation.com and loyal to us, which is very much and giving of your time, because I know that's an important thing these
You're
days.
lucky you caught me on sabbatical.
You know, sometimes we have great timing, and timing is everything on this show. But we're gonna say goodbye, and Tom Hartman is coming up next, live right now on FYNation.com. And thank you guys for watching. Jim, thank you for being in the chat, and our new moderator. Jim is our new chat room moderator, which is good to have out of the bat. And we'll see you at 3 o'clock